I'm sorry. Was that the official countdown? I was.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
No, I just decided to
Wait.
do a random countdown for no reason at all that trailed off at the one, which is the universal signal of I'm doing this way so that it doesn't bleed into the actual recording, which has been completely rendered moot by the fact that we're now having this conversation. I hope you know I'm leaving this in, and this is just going to be our introduction now.
Oh, okay. Guys, he bullies. We had this weird thing where we do it like we'd leave 10 seconds on. I didn't know if we were doing that again. Oh, well.
We already
Are we
did the
actually?
mic check.
Can we? So we can leave this in, right?
Yeah, no, we're live. This is the intro now.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Well, that was the joke, guys. Welcome to Irreverent. I'm your host for this week, Levi, followed by my co-captain Eli. Say hi, Eli.
No.
Okay. Well, I didn't have to rage bait Eli this week to make him mad. Now I just completely set the tone for the episode here. Um, so this week we can look forward to. By the way, it's been a second, I think, since we recorded. Has it been 2 weeks?
Yeah, we
I
had
think two
another
weeks.
week.
Yeah, yeah.
There was
I,
only
I
NASCAR, so that would have
yeah.
been a very
So
one-sided episode.
I was about to say, me and Eli talked, and it was just NASCAR and MotoGP. So it really would have only been me flapping for 2 hours, and Eli already has enough stress, so we didn't want to do that to Eli. So, but no, this week we got more balanced material. Even though I'm still going to go on the hardest NASCAR tangent ever. It's not a bad tangent either. Like I'm actually super happy. Uh, we're going to cover the past couple of weeks of racing in NASCAR. We're going to cover the IndyCar title and pretty much just give a season wrap. It's not going to be a huge discussion because spoilers, everybody kind of knew Alex Palou was going to win after the Thermal Club $1 million challenge. Uh, and then finally, Eli's going to cover what happened in Formula One. Uh, he's probably going to be happy. I don't know. I expected Eli to be much happier about what happened, but I
Oh,
think maybe he
I'm
saved
pretty
it up.
happy about the F1 weekend.
Okay, he might just be saving it up for tonight then. But I guess yeah, I'm going to hand it over to my co-captain Eli because I'm just going to bottle up all my emotions to completely pour out like hot chocolate over Eli once he's done with his F1 discussion. So go ahead, take the car, Eli. Drive us into the world of Oscar Piastri just simming for you.
I mean, that is kind of the fundamental thesis of that weekend, isn't it? Like, you know, Oscar Piastri showed up. And this time, he showed that he can actually just win without controversy because McLaren still did make a stupid decision, but it was less stupid, and they corrected it better. Which then led to us just having one, potentially the overtake of the season. Did you see the Piastri's dive bomb on Leclerc?
I didn't.
You need to look it up now.
Now. Look, all
Larson
right,
will crash
guy.
eventually. It doesn't matter.
I'm going to trust what I'd rather have your commentary than watch it. I'm sure it was great.
Yeah, no, he just completely sends it on Leclerc into turn one on lap 13, I believe. I forgot to write down which lap. No, it wasn't lap 13. It was like, I forget when it was. It was early on. But, and he was like around about 2/10 back at the start of the braking zone or something like that when he sent it. And they didn't crash. So that was
Are you
incredible.
are
And
you
then,
saying
yeah, go ahead.
are you saying Piastri and Leclerc race each other better than Norris Verstappen?
Yes. Mostly
I
because they
agree.
actually race each other. So
Wow.
far this year, we've had one example of Norris and Verstappen actually racing each other, and it ended in a crash.
Oh, I also saw Verstappen's comment about Piastri is closer to Norris than Norris is to me. What's your take on that?
I mean, that is literally a demonstrable fact at the moment.
So Norris is better than Piastri. I knew it.
Piastri is currently 222 points. Lando is 254. Max is 313.
Oh, literally.
Yeah. No, I like that is just a factual statement based on the standings.
So Max kind of just pulled that out of his Dutch donuts.
Max was basically just pointing out the championship order.
I was gonna say the post was him talking about talent, but honestly, I think he just kind of pulled that out of his Dutch donut oven.
Knowing Max, probably. But
And
there is actually an interesting statistic connected to that, which is that Piastri has actually scored more points since Miami than Lando.
oh man, I saw that one.
Yeah. So Piastri's been warming up real quick. But anyway, basically, Piastri then proceeds to spend the next 30 laps having an incredible, like, one of the best defensive drives you will see. But at some
And
point in there, McLaren does make a mistake.
oh man,
And it is almost identical to the one they made in Hungary. They wait too long to pit Piastri to cover off Perez at the time, I do believe. Yeah. But they do the smart thing. Because Lando hadn't pit yet. So, while he was out of sync, he was ahead of Perez. So they just told Lando, hey, can you hold Perez up by like a tenth? And admittedly, if he had held him up any less, Piastri would have ended up behind Perez. But Lando holds Perez up the perfect amount so that when Piastri comes out of the pits, right in front of him on fresher tires. Sort of thing they should have done in Hungary.
you see, it's crazy that McLaren has such a good driver lineup that they can nullify their mistakes usually.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that's like, it was good enough that, like, they were able to almost immediately fix accidentally letting themselves be undercut.
And this isn't base Perez. This is Azerbaijan Perez, which is normal Verstappen.
Yeah, like, Perez actually remembered how to drive for the first time in a year. Sort of.
Perez wasn't like Mickey Perez we're used to this year. This was like, yeah, like this is high level F1 driver Perez.
Yeah. But so Piastri brings home the win under a virtual safety car, which now brings us on to Perez. The first time in a year, he looked like he knew what he was doing. And then lap 50 happened. And so the running order at this point was Piastri, I think like 5 seconds ahead of Leclerc. For reference, for most of their fight, Piastri and Leclerc were under a second from each other for like 28 laps. And then in the last like 4 laps, Leclerc's tires are just gone, so Piastri runs away. So, at the end of lap 49, you have Piastri, Gap, Leclerc, Perez, Sainz. All within like 2 seconds of each other. All 3 of them. Into turn 1, Perez goes for a move. Isn't quite able to make it stick. Leclerc holds out wider and manages to defend. And that causes Perez to have to slow up so much that Sainz is able to come up and get past him. But because Leclerc is directly in front of Sainz then, Sainz can't make a gap on Perez, so Perez is still partly alongside. And so they both try to get the toe off of Leclerc. Perez's
I,
front wheel is directly ahead of Sainz's rear wheel.
I'm glad Charles has two toes.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Charles Charles' tires were so shot that both of them were going to overtake him. But instead they crashed into each other on a straight.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah. So that's why that happened. They were both trying to get the toe off Charles, and just Checo's front tire lodged right ahead of Sainz's rear, and they went into the wall. It was a racing incident. It was a stupid racing incident, but it was a racing incident. It's one of those rare racing incidents where it's like, it is not them just both being competent and unlucky. It's they both did something really stupid. Technically, if you're being real strict about it, it was more on Perez because Perez could see both of the cars at once, whereas Carlos would have had to go from looking ahead of him to see where Leclerc was to checking his mirrors to see where Checo was. But that is like a very minor technicality that does not matter. It was a racing incident. And
But
for some reason, like has been constantly happening this year, every time something stupid like that happens at the end of the race, guess who's the person who takes advantage of it? And by takes advantage, I mean just happens to get lucky.
Hamilton?
No, Russell.
I don't know, man. I think Hamilton's been really lucky this year.
Yeah, but I'm specifically talking about like stupid late race incidents.
Okay, I can see it.
Yeah. So that means
Team
that Russell,
Mercedes.
pretty much, Russell, who
Dumb like
was
you.
not, Russell was not in contention for a podium at all. Gets P3. And Leclerc manages to keep P2 even though his tires were completely dead. But yeah,
Big brain strap.
so
I
that's how the race ends up under a VSC. However, I'm not done.
oh boy.
I'm about to say many, many more good things. Because what we focused on is the race at the front.
Oh, oh my.
Which, to be fair, is where a lot of the good racing happened.
Piastri's like, please, Eli, I already bathed.
But for this next part, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and read out the top 10 as they finished. Piastri, Leclerc. Holy crap, I just looked at the gap between Piastri and Leclerc at the end. That has to be because of the VSC, though.
Was it really close?
No, it's nothing near close. That's the thing.
Oh,
They were within a second of each other on, I think, lap 47 or 48, and it was almost an 11-second gap at the end. So that tells you how dead Leclerc's tires were. Anyway, it was Piastri, Leclerc, Russell, Norris, who also got the fastest lap, Verstappen, Alonso, and these... Now we get to the part that I want to talk about. Albon, P7. Colapinto, P8. Hamilton, P9. That's... I don't care about. To be fair, it's decent, but... Other thing is... Behrman, P10. Beating Hulkenberg.
I don't know, man. Behrman's been so like I remember talking about him back in like July, August. How like he's going to be more. He is much more ready than Antonelli to get in an F1 seat next year.
Behrman now has more points than K-Mag.
Yo,
Between his race with Ferrari, and this one, he has one more point than K-Mag.
crazy.
But, like, just let that sink in. Behrman in a Haas, his first race in a Haas, beats his very experienced teammate on a very hard track to get a point. Colapinto, his second F1 race in what generally was not a great car most of the season, P8. Mind you, he also out-qualified Albon. And was only, like, I think a second and a half or 2 seconds behind him in the race. Yeah, just over 2 seconds behind Albon in the race. This guy was anonymous in junior categories. But apparently he knows how to drive an F1 car.
James Vowles was like on the street, like, surely someone in this vast city can drive an F1 car fast.
Like, I don't know where he came from. But yeah, so uh I still think that Williams' treatment of Logan was kind of horrible. But
Uh,
I'm talking about the
I can
grand totality of how they handled the situation.
you know what, you're right about that, but I I will say I like that James Vowles seemed pretty patient with Logan.
The problem is he was patient but didn't actually support him at all. That's kind of the problem you run into.
I believe in you, but I don't.
Yeah, that's sort of the thing, is it's like, we'll let you keep the seat for a while, but we're not going to do anything to help you.
Yeah, I feel bad for Logan because he's kind of in the same spot. Like, I mean, he's in the same spot Alex Albon and Pierre Gasly were at some points in their careers. Like, this junior team just absolutely splatters them with diarrhea.
Yeah.
So hopefully at some point he can get back on the grid.
Rumor has it he's got an IndyCar test lined up for the off season, so we'll see if that goes anywhere.
You know what? If he gets an Indy car, I have a driver to root for.
Yeah. But I will say, uh, Williams, maybe you should have considered giving Colapinto a few races before you signed signs. 'Cause there's nowhere for him to have a seat next year.
Would it really have been that bad to just keep Logan Sargent for the rest of the season? I mean, we're like, there's 7 races left. 6, 7.
Probably not. But here's the thing. Because we've ended up having to delay recording this episode, we also have the qualifying for Singapore. And again, Colapinto, P12. Albon, P11. Albon's time, 1 minute 30.474. Colapinto's, 130.481. Less than 1/100th of a second difference around Singapore. Albon's car has upgrades that Colapinto's doesn't.
That is pretty dank. Oh, Norris beat Verstappen.
There's a bit of controversy about that, but also, it's a Norris pole. What's it mean?
But also, Verstappen can't drive Singapore, so it's probably going to be McLaren and either Hamilton or Russell on the podium.
You know, there's actually, this is an aside, but there's actually a guy on Reddit who has made like a couple $100 by betting against Norris leading the opening lap every time he's had pole, and he's only bet like $10.
My gosh.
He's won like $200 out of it, I think, if I remember right. uh,
I feel bad for F1 drivers.
to be fair, Norris does do that to himself. But anyway, no, like the only potential seat left on the grid is the second seat at Sauber. But it also has been all but confirmed that it's Bottas re-signing for next year.
Terry Boat-ass.
So it looks like Colapinto might not have a seat, and it's unclear as to when he would end up with one, because Albon and Sainz are both signed until 26.
Yeah, very strange.
Yeah.
I don't have too much to say about it other than what you've kind of put down the last couple of weeks and stuff. It's just kind of like he's really good, but also it's probably the worst time to bring in a guy into a new seat all year.
Yeah. That's the thing, is like they brought him in. Technically, they brought him in for the easiest track, but then they follow that, with Baku and Singapore.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, he's shown himself. He's proved himself in those three, in 2 races and a qualifying session. But there's nowhere for him to race.
Actually, I think the problem is he has his appendix.
I genuinely don't know what they'll do with him.
Okay, I know you don't know this reference, Eli, I'm sorry, but if there's any college football heads out there, this is basically like 2018 Alabama, where like I think it was 2017 Alabama, and like during the title game, Jalen Hurts gets knocked out, and the backup quarterback turns out to be better than Jalen Hurts. Like, this is kind of like, Logan gets knocked out. It turns out this random dude is just better than him, but also this random dude might be as good or better than Alex Albon. So it's
That's
kind of
the
like, what do you do?
that's the insane part, is like he showed up and he is at least as good as Albon.
It's kind of like James Vowles has 3 drivers. You know what? I say they just make Colapinto their reserve driver.
He already is.
Oh wait, really?
Yeah.
Well, just like leave him, keep him at all costs.
Well, here's the funny thing about it. He won't be allowed to drive that car in an FP1 session next year.
Man,
Because you can't have more than 2 full race starts and still be considered a rookie driver for the FP1 tests.
I'm not quite sure if this was a big brain strategy from James Vowles.
I think he was considering dropping Colapinto from the drivers academy, but just wanted to see what he could do. And
boy, you got
ended up in an awkward
yourself in.
situation.
It turns out he's a literal god.
So it turns out he's like the next world champ material driver. But the
James
funniest
Vowles
thing
is going to
about
be
this
so
is
stressed.
funniest thing about this is he's not the only reserve driver that did this weekend. Right? We're completely glossing over the fact that Behrman is now outscoring K-Mag and beat Hulkenberg both in qualifying and on race pace.
Scrap Antonelli, put Colapinto in.
That's the thing. Antonelli has a hard time next year. Entirely because Behrman's on the grid, and Behrman, I based off of what we've seen in the 2 races he subbed for, I think Behrman's going to be the rookie of the year next year.
He just has so much more experience at this point than Antonelli. Like, getting off the grid in Bahrain next year, Bierman's going to be really good.
Well, not just that. It's also the difference in pressure levels. Occasional bad weekends in a Haas, big deal. There's not going to be the pressure on him that would get to him that could cause him to go into the spirals that we see other drivers fall into. But Antonelli has a couple bad weekends. Suddenly, he's got all that media pressure on him because he's in the murk.
I feel very bad for Antonelli because we said on the last episode, but like, he was just, they didn't let Antonelli be Antonelli. They really wanted their own Verstappen, and they kind of forced him through because, I mean, guys, a year ago, I was reading about Antonelli. There actually wasn't like a crazy, crazy amount of info on him. Like, yeah, he was coming into F2. Yeah, people were talking about him. But in the span of a year, it's gone from that to he's definitely the most hyped F1 like star next year. But this was kind of after like he got sent into F2 and it was good. I think he was good, but he wasn't great, and it's kind of like it was very manufactured for him to be in this seat and to be hyped up when really I think the best thing for Kimi Antonelli in his career is just to spend another year in F2 next year, bare minimum.
I think Toto was trying to save face after losing Hamilton.
Maybe.
That's
I
not
mean
a
I
maybe. He actually said that.
oh really?
I forget what the exact quote was, but it was before anything had been made official. Toto, in an interview, was talking about how if he's replacing Lewis Hamilton, it has to be something exciting and big. Because he was asked about the potential of Sainz.
Oh, okay. An appendix-less driver isn't going to do it. I see.
Basically, the thing was, it's like Sainz is a good steady set of hands, but it's not going to generate buzz and hype, which losing Hamilton is something that we need. Was pretty much what he said. It's paraphrasing it, but that's basically it. Which goes to be exactly, so they choose Kimi, a promising rookie, and it's like, oh yeah, we're going to put him up at the front. I think it's a mistake.
I very much second that. That's the thing. It's like it wouldn't be a mistake if you just let Kimmy just kind of develop and do his skills. He's very skilled. But no, you just gotta rush him as hard as you can into F1.
Yep.
The next Verstappen.
Yeah.
Man, I'm getting tired of hearing the next Verstappen.
Yeah.
I feel
It's
like
annoying.
every other day I'm on Instagram and there's like talking about this F4 like Bangladesh F4 guy who's the next Verstappen.
Yeah, just let the drivers develop how they are.
You know, I think Oliver Bierman might be the better Verstappen, and he's not even trying to be Verstappen.
That's why.
Ollie Bierman, yeah, Ollie Bierman's being Ollie Bierman. I mean, honestly, Verstappen's story is what everyone wants to be, but it's also cool to be a super sub.
That's the thing. Like the more exciting stories right now is Behrman and Colapinto.
I just there's something missing with Kimi Antonelli, and I know exactly what's missing. It's just that the poor guy is getting shoved into that seat, and he's going to go into the season with what? Like, does he have any more? Is he going to do any more FP1 this year?
I think he has one more.
Okay, but
He'll have
he
one
very well.
more, and then he'll have the Abu Dhabi tests.
Oh, okay, I was going to say like you might go into the next year with your last memory of an F1 car being spinning.
Pretty much.
So
There's a couple
I
more things I wanted to talk about Baku though.
okay. Yeah, but basically, long story short, we're hoping for the best for Kimmy, but man, this is this is sending a dude who doesn't really know how to swim into the deep end of the pool.
Yeah, you put him up on the high dive and just said jump.
Go ahead, everyone's waiting. You're gonna be the next Michael Phelps. You're replacing Michael Phelps.
Uh, but yeah. So, a couple other things I want to talk about is a funny thing happens on lap 49 as Checo is closing in on Charles Leclerc. The graphics guy is so used to Max being in front of Checo that he got confused as to which Red Bull it was. So instead of pulling up the delta between Charles and Checo, he pulls up the delta between Charles and Max, who is in P6 at this point. So,
Uh-huh.
if you had any questions about how the rest of this year has gone for Checo, they didn't even correct it. They left it on for the entirety of the main straight. That is not a short straight. They had time to correct that mistake. On lap 42, we have probably the best camera shot we'll have in F1 for a decade, which is Piastri and Leclerc coming out of, I believe it was turn 6, both drifting.
Huh.
Like tandem drifting, basically, because they were like less than half a second apart at the time. And it's the exact same drift, one after the other. It's great. But
I'll have to see that pick.
oh yeah, no, it is part of the highlights reel. It is part of everything. It was just because like it even was one of the places where there is a direct head-on camera pointed at the exit curb. So like it is a gorgeous shot. But there's also another little thing that happened, which is part of why the McLaren was so good at defending. McLaren figured out a new way to make flexi wings.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. Um, this one was particularly clever because it meant that the DRS flap was open.
Oh man, yeah. I saw an Instagram post about that.
Yep. Uh, now normally, the way that would be changed is normally the way that flexi wings are dealt with is a change to the testing protocol to certify the wings. Except, and the way that works is if it passes the test, then it is legal. And, you know, if the test changes in the future and it wouldn't pass the future tests, any previous races, it doesn't get mentioned, but it has to pass the new tests in the future. Here's the thing. There's another rule that is specifically about parts moving, changing the gap of the DRS flap. And that does not follow that ruling. Which means, technically speaking, this wing was always illegal.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, that's the interesting thing. The FIA, when it was just pointed out, like, hey, you guys need to fix the test because this shouldn't be allowed, they were like, yeah, but it passes the test, so it's fine. And then somebody challenged it saying, hey, this also violates this other rule about how the DRS flap works, and that does not have the same loophole in it. And so suddenly, the FIA was like, all right, we'll let them off with a warning instead of changing anything from Baku, which I do think is the right decision. But then they were also like, but now McLaren cannot run that wing again. I do think it's the right decision to let the standings stand. But also, When Red Bull and Ferrari showed up with the flexi wings, they changed the test the next week. And they were not going to do that this time.
Oh well, um, if it gets, banned, it gets banned.
I mean, it is banned now.
Oh wait, something changed from 3 days ago. It's banned now.
Yeah, that's what I was just explaining. Is they weren't going to change the testing protocol, which is what would have banned it. But then someone challenged it on a different rule, which is that I forget exactly how it's worded and what the exact rule is, but basically that says that no part of the DRS system can move relative to the wing in a way that expands the gap outside of when DRS is allowed to be activated.
Yeah, I wasn't paying attention because I actually got like a bit of sad news on the Superbike side of things, but I'll talk about that when it's my turn. But yeah, pretty unfortunate.
But
I
yeah,
promise I wasn't ignoring you on purpose.
just the passive ignoring me that everybody always does. Anyway, but no, so that's why it got rule of the week, because that doesn't have to pass a test. That is just a, if these are separate, if these are obviously separating, it is not allowed. So they can't run that wing again.
We'll have to see how that much. Yeah, and we'll have to see how that much that affects them in Singapore. It doesn't look like it's going to do too much right now, but
I was gonna say I would doubt they were even using that wing spec in Singapore.
Oh, you know what? You're right. Yeah, because of the long strait of Azerbaijan,
Yeah.
Singapore is very downforce.
Yep. And then I have two other bits of F1 news.
Oh, can I think I know what one is going to be though.
I have three other parts of F1 news because you just reminded me of another one. I don't know if it's the one you're thinking about, but I do not think you were thinking of either of the two that I was.
Okay, are you thinking about Danish plastic?
I have three pieces of F1 news, and Levi has one.
Dang, you don't know. Oh, man. Okay, go ahead and do yours, and I'll see if mine's new.
Okay, so the one that I thought you were thinking of was that the FIA has decided to ban cussing in press conferences.
Oh no, I wasn't thinking of that at all.
So Max has instead decided to give one-word answers or no comment in every press conference for the Singapore Grand Prix after he said the F word one time and has been given a day of community service because of it, and is instead then immediately having all of the journalists follow him outside out of the official press conference and then hosting his own private press conference in the parking lot outside where he's allowed to say whatever he wants. He has done this twice in a row. Everyone follows him every time.
Isn't it funny what happens when you don't let humans say the curse words they want to say?
I mean, of all people, you're really gonna like try to enforce that on Max, the person who, one, absolutely despises being in those media conferences already, and two, is petty enough to do something like this, and three, is big enough to get away with it. Because the thing is, Max already hates like doing the media stuff, so he's actually being more open with them just to spite the FIA.
Well, I will give no comment like Max.
It's hilarious. Because the thing is, when you watch the videos of it, he's like the post-qualifying press conference. It's it's the top three. So it's Lando, Max, and Lewis. And every single time he does it, when they pan out, you can see Orlando having to hold back his laughter. It's great. What was the other piece of news? You made me miss. Oh, this one still relates to Max Verstappen. He has a new addiction apparently. Yeah.
Did he get a vape pen?
No. It is approximately as zoomer as that though. One of his buddies at Team Redline was streaming and brought up that apparently for the past now 4 days he has been incredibly addicted to Minecraft.
I only laugh because we've all been through that phase, and I can't believe he's 26 years old and is finally getting into Minecraft.
Here's the thing. He has, in the past, previously said that he refused to play Minecraft because he didn't want to get addicted to it. Someone finally managed to break his willpower in the run-up to Singapore, and apparently his previous prediction was 100% true.
Maybe it was not being able to curse, and he had to get out all that energy somewhere.
Maybe.
And so addicting himself to Minecraft is his way of coping.
As other people pointed out, you know, Marco can't complain about him being up all night playing racing sims this way.
Have we all been through the Minecraft addiction? I'm just making sure you and me are cool here, because I had a really hard. Mine was more like 4 months. I mean, I've played it my whole life since I started, off and on, but the first 4 months were probably the most sadistically addictive time of my life.
I've played Minecraft since beta 1.2.
Are you a 2010, 11 boy?
I'm pretty sure 1.2 was like late 09, early 10.
Oh wow. It's confirmed. If you like racing, you're probably gonna like Minecraft.
It's good to say, like, you insult me by asking that question.
Sorry.
Oh.
Go ahead and give me your freak third piece of news.
Yeah, so, this is the one that for anyone who doesn't know, which is anyone who's listening, which is no one, except for Luke in 6 months. Apparently he's still on the 3rd episode. But anyway.
Oh my.
It's gonna take him a
Luke
minute.
in 6 months. What is this month? September. Hey Luke, how about springtime? Got any plans?
Oh, but what was I about to say? Oh yeah. So we tried to record this episode yesterday, but someone forgot to charge their headphones, so we couldn't take the risk of doing it and then dropping out and halfway through the episode.
We had the best time ever last night.
It
Specifically
was
me.
mostly because it was actually enough charge that we could have probably done the episode, but you know.
Yeah.
But as part of that, I teased a bit of news to Levi that ties back into a conversation that we had a while ago. You see, a few episodes back, I had talked about the fact that Formula One is great, specifically because it is the one area where we are willing to dedicate ridiculous amounts of money in order to just show the pinnacle of human innovation that allows us, you know, basically it's why it's the superior sport. And I made the argument that other forms of sport would be better, but nobody wants to make giant fighting robots for millions of dollars. However, that entire idea, that entire conversation, was inspired by a tweet that I had seen about something. Levi, do you have your phone on you at the moment?
I'm already on YouTube.
Yes. Perfect.
Oh my god. Oh, we're actually doing this.
That entire conversation was spawned because of an idea I had because I saw a random tweet about somebody trying to make the argument that Beyblade should be recognized as an actual sport and that they wanted to see it go like the full distance that it did in the Beyblade anime with just arenas everywhere and nonsense like that and people spending ridiculous amounts of money on it. This is relevant because in the build up to Singapore, Williams decided as part of their social media thing to have Albon and Calipito have a Beyblade battle.
I'm telling you, like I'm serious. I loved Star Wars fighter pods when I was a kid, and I really do like whenever we meet up for an in-person episode, I do want to play Beyblade. Like I want you to teach me because it looks like so much fun.
Uh, and
You
for
you know how much I love metal products, and if you can paint the metal product, I'm in.
yeah, so for further context, after seeing that tweet a while back, I then decided to see what was going on with them, and then because nostalgia is a terrible, horrible monster, ended up buying a bunch of toys.
My life.
And now we've come full circle. uh, to be
Oh, can
completely
I?
honest, that was just such a surreal thing because I just like it just popped up on the F1 subreddit, and I was like, okay, I did not expect this. That I didn't expect us to end up talking about Beyblade twice on a motorsport podcast, but here we are.
Hey, it's a metal thing that turns in circles,
Yeah,
like a wheel. Um,
that's
but
everything I have for F1.
but it has come full circle because I want to talk about Danish plastic.
Yeah, what in the world's the news that you got? What did I miss?
I really thought you would catch wind of this because F1 has partnered with Lego, and the reason this is big is because they weren't before. Usually, when Lego would release F1 products, it was a team affiliation. Like it would be a Mercedes licensed product, Aston Martin, McLaren licensed product. But now Lego has partnered for Formula One and are going to release new product lines next year.
Huh, I completely missed that.
The only reason I know is because I was just surfing YouTube and because I follow a few Lego guys, I caught wind of it. But I am kind of afraid because nostalgia also plays tricks on my brain, and because I do love Danish plastic, depending on how good a product is, I may get my grubby fingers on it. But there hasn't been much information, just a lot of speculation about what they could release. Got guys listening, AUI's listening. I have a dream. Um, and if Lego does this, I don't see why I can remain sane. There's a few things they can do, but here's one thing I really want. Okay, when I was a kid, one of my favorite Lego sets I had was Eli. Do you remember the Lego Racers line?
Yeah.
For, and how they would like package these like 1/55th scale mini Lego cars and a hard plastic wheel, but
Mm-hmm.
sell it as a Lego set. If they do that for F1, but like package individual small F1 branded cars with like license stickers and like a minifig and maybe sell it for like 9.99 or 14.99 a pop, I think that is crack for me.
My thought was, what if they do the trophies?
That would be cool. That's not my meat and potatoes because I'm very much a child and I have to play with my toys, not look at them. So I'm sure that'd be good for a lot of people.
I'm just trying to figure out what's different between this and the deals they were making with the teams.
The unfortunate part is I can't find much on how it is different other than the fact that Formula One as a brand is going to be in partnership with Lego instead of just individual teams.
I wonder if that means that all teams will now have sets.
I think that's probably what it's going to be. Is that all teams are going to have sets plus maybe authentic F1 merch, because the teams that have gotten F1 sets like McLaren, Mercedes, and Aston Martin have already had cars made before and just their usual kind of passenger road going cars. Um, so of course I can make a Formula One car, but now, yeah, probably just a ton more F1 merchandise will be made and sold.
Yeah. Oh, I look forward to hearing more about it.
Me too. As a toy junkie, I'm probably gonna like it. But I gotta admit, as a toy junkie, I really prefer smaller cars because I am a junkie and I have to collect all of them. So if it can be a cheaper, smaller, less invasive form of plastic and that can fit easier into my room, I'd appreciate it. Because if all they do is just make their usual scale but do all of the cars in that, I can't fit that on a Hot Wheel track. I can't fit that in my room. That's too much. I need smaller. If they could do like what they did this year with the Lego McLaren polybag, but just do that 20 times with all the cars, I'd probably be more into that.
Yeah.
But also give me a track. Like, give me a $100 playset track. I love that so hard.
Do the Monaco podium as a set.
You know what? They also, because it's licensed now, may have minifigures like, in their Star Wars and like superheroes line, how normal unlicensed Lego is yellow, but licensed Lego has actual tan human skin and stuff. Maybe they're gonna have like licensed minifigs.
Maybe. I don't know.
Who
I
knows?
guess
I'm
we'll
just
find out
I'm just
next year.
excited. Yeah. Well, me and Eli will go on a shopping spree next year.
Yeah, end up having our
Anyway, well
first
that was
actual
that was
video
all
being
my
a review of that.
yeah. I that was all my news.
You're the host.
Oh, are you done? Are we done
Yeah.
with F1? Oh, okay, okay,
All of that was just me
okay.
building talking about Babe like 5 seconds, so
Oh, okay. Well, now I take the floor. Levi slowly enters. Thank goodness Eli is done talking. That's okay. And here I'm gonna get out. So once the clock hits 10, because I got a lot of NASCAR to talk about, and we both got to give brief thoughts on IndyCar. But I do want to mention I was literally distracted when you were talking because what happened was, so I have my PS3 World Superbike game next to me, and I'm just looking at the cover, and I'm wondering which Ducati rider that is. So I look up Troy Bayliss, not him. It's Noriyuki Haga. I'm like, okay, it's Noriyuki Haga. No big deal. I'm literally just curious because I'm tired of hearing Eli talk. I love you, Eli.
oh no,
I
it's a
I just
typical
I
reaction.
seriously, you know it's not. I'm completely bored with you. It's just that my ADHD really got the better of me there because he was just standing there. And I'm like, I wonder who number 41 is. And so I looked him up, and it was Noriyuki Haga. And I see this sad story. Like his son, Ryota Haga, died in a motorcycle race 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
That's crazy, man. He was riding 600cc. It was the Japan Road Race Championship. He was riding a Yamaha R6. He died.
that sucks.
Noriyuki Haga, the fifth most winningest superbike rider ever. So yeah, that kind of stunned me for a sec.
I now suddenly understand why you ended up distracted.
It's 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 even worse because the last time I talked about MotoGP, I'm like, boy, sure is nice we at least have one motorsport where people die every now and then. And now I feel like a jerk.
Yeah.
Because yeah, it's like it's different when like that's the equivalent of like Mick Schumacher dying. It's like Noriyuki Haga was one of the best superbike racers ever. His son was already in the 600cc class. He was 21. Yeah, like he died 2 weeks ago. It didn't list the cause of death, but that's the thing. It's like MotoGP and Superbike are all dangerous sports, but I don't think there's anything quite as dangerous as the junior categories of motorcycle racing because these guys who are like my age, 20 to well, like between me and Eli's age, are still learning how to ride high performance motorcycles. And you're putting a confident 20-year-old dude on a 600cc motorcycle that can go 100, and it's also like a race ready 600cc, so it can do 180. So you got a really fast bike, and that might be more dangerous than MotoGP because the MotoGP guys are like, much more experienced and can handle the power. And I know I'm going to anger a lot of 600cc owners, but the difference between 600 to 1,000 isn't all that huge. I'm sorry. I'm mostly angering 1,000cc owners, but really when it comes to top end, it's not an insane difference. So
It's
yeah, that
also
was
kind of
like,
like how accidents in Formula 3 end up being so much worse than F2 or F1, right?
yeah, learning how to do it's so dangerous. And so yeah, just really sad. But yeah, I think that would nicely get me into just quickly covering what happened in MotoGP because I didn't watch the races. They were really early. I prefer my beauty rest. Also, I'm busy Sunday morning, so I typically we can't watch them. Marc Marquez has won twice in a row, Eli. He just won
Switching to
Misano.
Ducati was a good choice.
It was Marc Marquez. I forget how many career wins is that career win number 84 and 5, I want to say. How many did Marquez have? But yeah, and I'm looking. So I think Jorge Martin was the championship leader as of Aragon. Yeah, Jorge Martin was championship leader. Let's see. Oh, Banaya finished in second at Misano, and Ikes. Where is Jorge was a lap down in 15th. So I'm gonna look at standings really quick. I'm guessing Banaya. Actually, I don't know. Maybe Marquez is number one now. I'm gonna look at standings really quick. I think Banaya is probably the leader right now. Oh, I would be wrong. Jorge Martin is still the leader with 321 points. Banaya is second with 317, and Marquez is third with 265. Not totally out of it. So with the Grand Prix of India was canceled, of course, and it looks like the Kakistan Grand Prix is postponed. So the next one is September next. It looks like next weekend at a circuit I've never heard of before in Indonesia. In all my MotoGP gaming history, I've never heard of Mandalika International Circuit. Brand spanking new for me. Um, okay, yeah, it looks like about 7, 8 races left this year. Plenty of racing to go, but yeah, Jorge Martin's still leading. Um, I don't know if you saw Eli. I think the highlight from the last couple of weeks was at Aragon when what took Francesco Bagnaia out of P1 was when he wrecked with Alex Marquez at Aragon.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that. I'm going to be honest. My 2 cents. I saw it. It was very much a racing incident. Um, you can put the blame on both of them. Um, Maya shouldn't have dived that hard and left Marquez with not that much room. Or you could look at Marquez and say, "Hey, you should have just let Banaya, just take the place. You could. There was a straight coming up. You could catch him then." I lean more towards Alex Marquez was more innocent because why are you ever going to tell a racer to just give the guy the position? He's not thinking about that typically. So, but mostly it's a racing incident. It was kind of scary, not the scariest crash, but Banaya actually got some bruises from that crash because Alex Marquez's Ducati ran over him. So,
Ooh.
um, guys, MotoGP suits are literally amazing. This 360-pound, 200 horsepower machine just rolls over a dude, and all he gets are bruises.
I
You
mean, you kind
literally
of
have
need
this,
that when you don't have, body work to protect you.
yeah. So, but no, that's I haven't read up on it because I think the race at Misano just happened. Oh no, it happened on September 8th. Never mind. I'm still an idiot. Um, but yeah, so that's kind of all I gotta say about motorcycle racing. Haven't kept up with Superbike too much. This, and I'm kind of too shocked to talk about it right now because of what happened. But yeah, there you go. I'm kind of happy that Jorge Martin's leading, even though it's all Ducati. I kind of want to see someone else besides Benaya win, and it's kind of nice to see Jorge Martin taking it down to the wire once again, like he did last year. So how nice. Hopefully, one of the Japanese Big Four can get their game up in GP pretty soon because I'm kind of getting bored watching Ducati win. Like not just win like Kawasaki did between 14 to 20, but like
Dominate.
but basically every single bike in the top 10 is a Ducati. But I like it's okay if they dominate, but I just don't want to be swarmed. But as they say, most motorcycle manufacturers race so they can sell bikes. Ducati sells bikes so they can race. They're built different. They really are. Um,
Yeah.
I kind of think that's it for me. I hit mile 1000 on my motorcycle, FYI, so I'm very happy. In case you ever want to know, listeners.
I feel like we should start having that just be a bit. Each week you update how many miles you have on your bike.
You know what? That's a great. You know what? No one has joined us on Eli 5 in so long. I'm just going to replace it with Levi's mileage update on my motorcycle. I'm at 1080. Ooh, 1086. I want to say. I had 1,000 miles this Sunday, last Sunday. I mean, but yeah, I'm at 1,086, guys. Here we go. And I want to say the reason I actually would be interested in this is because I have a Chinese bike. So all you Japanese fanboys, we're all going to be in this experiment together to see how long this Chinese bike lasts. And you know what, QJ, Benelli, and CF Moto, they're legit. They're good Chinese motorcycle brands. They get better every year. They're kind of the big three of China in terms of just reliability and in terms of just model selection. I did my homework before I bought this bike, I promise, and I was willing to take the chance on the Chinese manufacturing quality. It's been really, really good, except for maybe a supposed leak, but that was also very much something your average motorcyclist isn't going to care about. I care about it because I want the details. It's not pivotal to the performance of the motorcycle. When it comes to things pivotal to the performance of the motorcycle, nothing has happened, guys. I promise. It's been a flawless 1,086 miles off the showroom floor. It was encouraging because this one brand of Chinese motorcycle called Venom Motorsports, they're actually really bad. Most reviews I see say they blow up after 1,000 miles, so I'm doing good.
That's
And Eli's dream bike is a Kawasaki KLR 650, which that bike is going to last until the engine or the chassis falls around the engine.
hey man, Kawasaki just builds things different.
Japanese bikes are just built different. You know, the reason I chose my bike was because of the aesthetics and performance was to me the best in the category. But I mean, my second choice was going to be a Kawasaki. That Z125 is pretty cool. It
I
just
mean, it looks
doesn't have
cool
enough.
too.
It doesn't have enough green. It doesn't have enough speed, and it's a little too expensive. Get what I'm saying?
I think for me, the
And
biggest thing that'd be concerned about it would be the speed, just because it can barely. It would struggle to get up to highway speeds fast enough to not be terrifying.
two things. One, mine has gone up to highway speeds. It's not as bad as you think. Two, I live around a ton of back roads, so I can still have a bunch of fun with it. But everyone has their own bike, you know? You got to get the bike that speaks to you. And this one whispered softly in my ear, and I was like, you know what? I like that. Um, yeah. I
I don't know
guess I'll
why
be
you keep
done.
like I was gonna say, like, you keep going silent like you're expecting me to pick up with something. You're the host.
I'm sorry. I'm expecting you to say something. My fellow partner in motorcycling.
I mean, hey, I talked about your bike a bit, and I talked about why I'm interested in what I am. Then, so yeah.
Tell me, I want every single detail that led to you wanting a KLR 650. You filthy adventure bike degenerate.
They look cool. They're built like tanks.
Just go to a gym and ask out a bodybuilder girl.
I'm not saying you're wrong, but I am trying to follow your logic there.
It looks good. It's built like a tank.
I'm not going to disagree with you, but I'm
And you
trying to
can ride the
wonder.
heck out of it.
How dare you expose me like this? uh,
Let's play that game. Does he need therapy or does he want a motorcycle? For me, it was both.
to be fair, I'm pretty sure that's true of everyone.
Guys, the only reason you ever want a motorcycle is because you're a broken animal. I mean, think about the ladder of progression where it's like you start on like a 125 or a 300cc mini, not mini. Well, I guess I have a mini bike, but like a mini or a small sport bike, and then you go to like 600, then 750, and then 1000. It's like you keep having to go faster. Why do you need to keep going faster? Because you can't go fast enough to forget your problems.
And if you go
So you just
fast
keep
enough,
going,
then you're more likely to die when you crash.
and you keep trying to go faster, like Eli said, either to die or go so fast your problems melt away with your face. Uh,
And now that our weekly "Dear God, we need therapy" segment is over.
Guys, Eli still isn't sure if he wants a bodybuilder girl or a KLR 650. Right now, we think they're the same thing.
I mean, does it have to be one or the other?
I mean, I'm sure, like, the KLR is so jacked, you could probably get both of you on it and it's not going to break a sweat. I mean, it is a unit of a bike. I'm going to give it that. I mean, I bought my bike for me and solely me.
I want to point out this
Well,
wasn't in our pre-show discussion. There was no part where we were going to talk about me getting called out like this.
I'm sorry. But I'm the host and I had to cook up something special because Eli 5 doesn't exist anymore. Anyway, well, that's enough of our motorcycle weekly discussion of me giving you the miles, exposing Eli terribly. I mean, pretty bad. And also giving you the MotoGP update. And Noriyuki Haga. RIP. So I've kind of been waiting for this segment really uh, since yesterday, really. But no, I mean I've kind of been wanting to talk about this because it's time to talk about NASCAR, guys. And or if you're listening, you know I love NASCAR, but like I got to be honest, the last 2 weeks of racing, we were at Watkins Glen and Atlanta. Oh, and by the way, Bristol is actually happening while we're recording, so I'm going to check Bristol because my mood could quickly tank. Ugh, yeah, my mood's tanking really bad. There's like 44 laps to go, and Kyle Larson is still leading.
Yeah, it's plenty of time for him to bottle it.
That's true. So I'm going to stay away from NASCAR right now so I can focus on how happy I've been the last couple of weeks because I was on an absolute spiritual quest because it started with me innocently in my room watching Daytona last month, and up to this point, Chevrolet had won 11 times in the season, Toyota had 8 wins, and Ford had 5. Guys, the last 3 years as a Ford fan, I have been abused and neglected. I grew up watching Kevin Harvick and Ford be really, really good. You know, they got 2 manufacturers titles. They even when they weren't winning those, they were still winning. And Joey Logano won the title in 18, and Ford was just good. They were okay. like really okay. Even like BK was good in 2017. And then 2021 happened, and really ever since 2021, I've struggled to kind of rekindle my same love for racing. And you're going to find that's mostly a lie because I have a point of this every year where at some point I get really excited for NASCAR. I always do, but it's like, in terms of just, I haven't felt certain feelings in a long time because of Chevrolet. There are so many Chevrolets in the field anymore, and Rick Hendrick has a dream lineup of drivers, and let's face it, a hard mafia following. And 2021 Chevrolet won 19 times that year. Ford only won 7. I can't remember a year where I was so not emotionally involved in a year where this boring Chevrolet, literally visually boring Chevrolet, was winning so much time and time out. And my guys just quit winning. It was kind of like uncharted territory for me to see Chevrolet be that dominant all of a sudden. And the last couple of years, it hasn't changed much. But
What you're
I
saying
was
is you know
watching.
what Mercedes fans feel like.
Yes, yes, it's been terrible. And honestly, Chevrolet has not won any less than, I want to say, man, they won 18 in 2022. So they went to 19 and then to 18. And then last year, I want to say they also won 16. Is that right? All I know is Chevy's been really hauling it. They've gotten great driver lineups and they've just been winning so much. And as a Ford fan, it's just kind of like disheartening because it's like you grew up watching your favorite manufacturer win, and that's kind of what got you into racing. And all of a sudden, they're not good. Your favorite driver isn't winning. You're just not feeling the vibe. Anyway, back to Daytona. So that's kind of like your history on the last few years that I may have already talked about because I need therapy. But I was watching Daytona, and Harrison Burton won that race. And little did I know that the next 3 weeks would be all Ford wins, unexpected Ford wins. Ford hasn't won 4 races in a row since 2018. Ford has won 9 of the last 16 races. And all of a sudden, now Ford is second in the manufacturer's title, only 2 wins behind Chevrolet. And I after Watkins Glen, when Chris Buescher beat Shane Van Gisbergen, Eli SVG finished second last week and almost won. He's really good. But Chris Buescher won Watkins Glen. Joey Logano won Atlanta. But after this last Watkins Glen win, I remember like I just felt this feeling I hadn't felt in so long. It's like I actually have a deep emotional investment into these NASCAR playoffs. Like I I have a good reason to this year. It's like I'm always going to be interested, but now it's like your team is finally good, and now it's more exciting because you actually might be able to win this. It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny how that feeling just kind of popped up. I was watching it, I'm like so happy. I'm like, wow, like this is a dream scenario. I feel like every time in any sport I've watched where it seems like something unlikely could happen, it never really happens. And then Ford goes from going winless the first 12 races of the year to now winning 9 of the last 16, and all of a sudden they're number 2 in the manufacturer's fight. And it's like this was kind of out of left field. No one really expected them to do this. It's very low chance to do what they did. But 9 wins later, they're here. They're beating Toyota. They're catching up to Chevrolet. We're going to a couple of tracks after Bristol that really suit Ford well in Talladega and Kansas. So the battle is wide open. But I was just going to say to the listener, like, I'm very invested, but also like, and the same year that Red Bull is not going to win the manufacturers title and F1 Constructors Championship is the same year Chevrolet finally isn't going to win the manufacturer's title by an absolute landslide, and I might actually have a chance to be happy this year. That was a long way to say that Watkins Glen sent me on a literal spiritual quest. Like I was just on cloud 9 after that race. I'm like, I haven't felt this way in literally 6 years. Like I am so happy now. I don't have to have Ford win to watch NASCAR. It's just much more preferable, you know? You kind of like to have the guys you like win.
That's why I loved
uh,
Baku so much.
right? It's more fun when your guy wins. It's a lot more fun when your guy wins. And now they're winning, and I'm happy. Um, and of course, we couldn't record yesterday. I wanted to be the one to say I felt like Ryan Blaney was going to win tonight. Unfortunately, I don't dare check the standings right now, but it looks like Kyle Larson's going to win. Hopefully, he bottles it again for the 60th time in his career. But I mean, I think Ryan Blaney's top 10 or something, but I really thought Ryan would have it tonight. Um, just Ford had insane momentum. Penske, has been good too. Joey won a couple weeks ago, but yeah, I think what this has taught me is I I think what has always drawn me to NASCAR in the first place is just kind of like I get that people can think it's gimmicky, and is it the perfect racing series? Not by a long shot. However, if you're in it because you're like very invested in one of these three manufacturers, it is one of the best sports you can watch. It's so much fun because I just don't. No matter how much I love Aston Martin and F1, I don't get the same fuzzy feelings when they start doing well. I'm not sent on an absolute spiritual quest like I am if Ford starts doing really well in NASCAR. It hits different. It really does.
To be fair, that would require Aston Martin actually being competitive.
Yes. Who knows? Maybe they will send me on just an absolute trip.
They're gonna
But yeah,
have a
like
newing machine in a couple of years.
but I think that's the thing. Like every year, NASCAR is so competitive that every year you can at least deceive yourself into being happy. Whereas some years like this year in F1, 6 races in, you're probably not going to be happy if you're a fan of one of these 10 teams. So, but yeah, it hit different, Eli. That's basically what I'm saying. Is as the host, I just want to reveal my feelings, and that it watching Chris Buescher move SVG out of the way to prevent another Chevrolet win. It set me over the edge. Like I was so happy. Like I was so invested. Like each of these last four wins. Like I remember like watching Harrison Burton hold off Kyle Busch. I was like on my feet, pumping my fist. Like I was so happy. And then I don't think I got. I actually no, I did. I was doing the same thing when Chase Briscoe was holding off once again Kyle Busch, and I didn't get to see the Atlanta race. I was busy last Sunday, but I'm sure I would have done the same thing. Like just saying win after win after win is something I haven't seen in years, and like it is the right meal at the right time. It's the exact meal I'm craving. Um, I mean, I'm talking this much just about Ford winning, and I haven't even moved on to my actual thoughts on the playoffs and the round of 16. Um, which much to Eli's chagrin, I probably should do. Sorry, Eli. I know you hate the playoffs, but I like them, and I got to talk about them. So, I'm trying to record this podcast like Bristol hasn't happened because one driver has already been eliminated, or two have already been eliminated, and it's kind of crushing my heart. Um, but after the first couple of rounds, the playoff guys had a terrible time with Watkins Glen. Only two playoff guys in the top 10. Holy crap, Eli! Um, Austin Cindric is doing really well. Austin Cindric is one of those drivers that everybody predicted would be knocked out of the first round. He's never been great, but after these first couple of races in the playoffs, he was I think he was 40 points above the line, which means as long as he basically finishes in the top 20 at Bristol, he's going to be a lock for the next round. Like he's all but in basically into the next round. And when you're going into the next round with a wild card like Talladega, where he could race his way into the round of 8, um, it's like you know I think that's why I do like the playoffs is if someone gets hot at the right time, they do get rewarded for it. But also, it's kind of just fun to to think in your brain. It's like okay, there's there's 3 rounds to get to the championship race, And it's just kind of fun to pick an underdog like Austin Cindric and just kind of go through in your head like, okay, as long as he has one good round and then wins a wild card race, he's into the round of 8, and then we'll see what he can do there. It's like if you play these playoffs like chess, it can be a lot of fun just being in your head about it. But Austin Cindric has been really good this round, and I think he definitely deserves to be in the round of 12. And hopefully we can see what he does there. But yeah, good to see him doing well. Um, Brad Keselowski, actually name a playoff driver they're probably not doing well. Trying to think of any other. Kyle Larson not having the best time of his life. And I'm saying that he's leading Bristol right now. But once again, Bristol's not happening. This is just the last 2 weeks. Ryan Blaney, a rough time Watkins Glen. However, he also had enough cushion above the cut line that he's probably going to be okay in Bristol and advance as long as he exists. Which everybody knows Ryan Blaney's probably going to win Fall Talladega because he always does. So I think he's a round of 8 lock at this point. I also predicted he'd win tonight, so shows you how much I know. I mean, when it comes playoff time, you never know what to expect. So, anything else from the last couple of weeks? Atlanta was awesome. Eli, I got to be honest, new Atlanta is just so much fun to watch. It's like they took pack racing from Daytona and Talladega, shrunk the track vertically and horizontally, and they're going just as fast. It's a ton of fun to watch. Never had a bad time watching Atlanta. Joey Logano has proven to be really good. New Atlanta, won there last spring, got another dub a couple weeks ago. Levi's predictions into the round of 12, based off of, I think there's like 20 laps in the race at this point, but I'm going to pretend like I didn't see anything. Going into this round, my picks were going to be Austin Cindric, Chase Briscoe, Harrison Burton being helped. I hate having that many forwards out, but none of them were especially great. And I was probably going to pick Alex Bowman as the fourth driver to go out. My one wild card, give or take, would probably be, of course, Daniel Suarez. Like maybe he would probably switch with either Cindric or Briscoe as one of them out. But those were probably my 4 and my wild card 5th to not make into the round 12. And it's looking like after Bristol, only one of those predictions is going to be correct, which is crazy. It's the playoffs, baby. I don't know really what to do about Bristol, honestly. Like, I'm watching it right now. I might as well just talk about it. It's about to end any minute. I'll give you live results. I'll give you live results when they happen, when the race is over.
I was going to say, we still have an entire IndyCar championship to summarize.
Can we go on a break really quick, please?
Sure.
Yeah, this is our first sponsored break by Stanley Steamer.
We're back to live.
Okay, so I go to get a break to get some water because I was so in my element talking about the playoffs that I just got dry. I ran out of water. I had to go downstairs and get some water. I come back, Kyle Larson won. I knew I shouldn't check the standings while I was getting. I'm glad I was talking about how happy I was. This is like the moments right before the hero dies. The hero died. Kyle Larson won. 12 wins for Chevy on the year. Now what's gonna happen? Kyle Larson's gonna talk about how good he is again, talk about how Verstappen's in for it. Because he led like 400 some laps tonight. Ugh. I don't know what to say.
Want to talk about IndyCar?
Yeah, you know what? I'm fed up. That's it.
That is kind of the title of our episode.
What's the title?
The end of Indy.
The end of it.
So we do need to kind of talk about the championship race at some point.
Well, you know what? Let's just do it. I'm done. Kyle Larson has ruined my night, ruined my week. Oh, gosh, dang it. I had never been so happy after Chris Buescher won Watkins Glen. I've never carried so much emotional momentum into a race since like I was a kid. And look who wins. Like Kyle Larson is just the bane of my existence, man. He has the dullest looking car, stupidest. He's garbage. He just has to win Bristol. He just has to.
Anyway,
The
the IndyCar
one
season
race,
finale.
the one race that he didn't actually make a mistake, that I could have used him to make a mistake for. Dang it, man.
The IndyCar season finale took place in Nashville. Nashville Super Speedway this past weekend. They had to use Super Speedway because something remodeling work being done because of a stadium, because of some stupid sport called football that for some reason people care about.
And you know what? Nashville Super Speedway, I don't care who you are. IndyCar oval racing at 200 miles an hour around Nashville, much more exciting to me than the Music City road course they got.
Especially the new layout.
Oh yeah, because I mean Nashville is kind of a cool speedway, just 1.33 miles. It's a very unique track, you know, because the only other tracks that length are Darlington and Worldwide Technology and St. Louis, which are kind of the same general shape, kind of like what's the word? It's oblong oval or something like that. Not they're not equal on both sides, but yeah, it's just a regular tri-oval shape, but it's just a kind of a mini intermediate, just 1.33 miles of concrete, which is the largest oval concrete track in the world, I believe. So, but yeah, concrete eats those tires. But yeah, it's awesome to see the Indy cars going, 180 in the turns.
That
Surreal.
did also lead to a slight problem in some of the lead up to the weekend, though, because there is the bump. I forget who
The
it
what?
was. The bump. There's a bump on the. I want to say it was right before the start finish line, if I'm remembering right. I don't have the details written down, but they started calling it the mountain because if you didn't notice it and hit it, you were gonna crash.
You see, that was never mentioned in NASCAR before. That's interesting.
Well, suspension in NASCAR is a bit more forgiving.
Yeah. Oh, they're also heavier too.
Yeah. They're also less sensitive to raising a millimeter higher off the ground.
Yeah.
It didn't
Especially
really
in the
end up
good,
being a factor in the race, though.
especially in the good old Gen 6 days when there was no rear end diffuser. Topic for another day. Go on.
Yeah. So here's the thing. The boring part about this race is we kind of already knew who was champion. Like, there was a chance for Power to be champion, but that basically required Pelot to not score any points. Like, that was the only realistic outcome that ends with anyone other than Alex Pelot winning. That said, Kyle Kirkwood got pole. So, that's pretty good for him. But of course, going into the actual race, what is relevant to mention is that, where in the world is he? Alex Pelot qualified all the way down in 15th. He did not have a great qualifying session. I didn't actually watch it, know all the details, but yeah. But qualifying ended up not meaning a whole lot for this race. Ended up being a whole lot more about strategy.
Yeah, I feel like in any larger oval race, qualifying is small potatoes. Not to be that guy, but in my experience, I'm just going to put it this way. In the 2018 Coca-Cola 600, Kevin Harvick started last, and by lap 60, he was up in the top 5. Not going to say qualifying doesn't matter, but it also doesn't.
I mean, like, on ovals, right? Because, like, you get to road and street courses, it's a bit more important. It's a bit more reflective of what the weekend will end up turning out like. But on ovals, not so much. Now, I was kind of tuned out to this race because, well, I'm kind of burnt out on ovals, and
Already?
5 of the last 7 IndyCar races were ovals.
Man, I'm glad we have a podcast because you and me bring entirely different energies here.
It's less that there were too many of them, and it's more that they just need to be more evenly distributed.
I can go oval, 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 and be okay. I'm not always going to be okay, but I think I think I could do 7 ovals in a row and be okay.
My ideal world would be every third race would be an oval. Which would be about the same number of ovals as we had this year, but just more equally spaced out.
Yeah, I can get on board with that. I
Especially considering one of them was a double header, so it is literally the exact same track.
I I yeah, I think that's why I can. You know what? I think that's the thing. I can do oval, 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 but in NASCAR we're blessed with several different oval types and everything. So what? Literally, I mean, the last this month we've had Darlington, Atlanta, Bristol, Watkins Glen, and Kansas. Which, if you know anything about NASCAR, you know those are 5 very different tracks. Basically, IndyCar would never.
Yeah, IndyCar, meanwhile, it's all, intermediate tracks and then 2 super speedways.
IndyCar needs like a short oval, like not that's not Iowa. Like they need a slow oval, like like I don't know. It would be amazing to see IndyCar at Bristol.
But NASCAR management wouldn't allow that.
Oh, absolutely not. But it'd still be amazing. But like, give them yeah, like a Martinsville-esque track or a New Hampshire-esque track. Like, give them an oval that actually requires some. I know I'm gonna make people hate me again, but actually requires like a little bit of braking skill. Like you actually have to play with the car in the corners a bit.
To be fair,
Like
braking played a very important part in the winner of this race. Which is a weird
it
thing to
did.
say about a super speedway.
Yeah, very much. Which is why we totally need like a Phoenix or a New Hampshire or something like that.
Yeah. So for reference as to what I mean by that, near the end of the race, I believe it was the third from last lap, if I'm remembering correctly. The order was Malukas in first, followed by Award, and then Herta. And to go back to my earlier mention of qualifying meaning nothing, Pato will qualify. Malukas qualified sixth. Pato was in eighth, and Herta was in 11th. Meanwhile, they're the 3 that were at the front. Unfortunately, Malukas was running out of fuel, so he had to dive into the pits. Chen leads us with Pato in the lead, and Herta flying up on him. We ended up with at one point, I think like a 6 car pack, if I'm remembering right. But Pato and Colton break away from that, getting the runaround, and then into was it turn 3? I want to say is when they came up on Stingray.
Um, I don't think I watched that part.
It's like the third to last lap. But anyway,
Oh, okay. I didn't
yeah,
know that was Stingrays. So yeah, I,
it's when the pass for the win happened. That's what I'm talking about.
that was when Alex Pillow ran out of skill.
I'm talking about Pato.
Oh, wait. Oh no, Alex was eighth, right? Seventh or eighth? I remember.
Alex was a
I
non-factor in this race. He really
gonna
didn't have
say
a good day.
I know he did donuts, which is probably why I thought he was higher up than he was.
No, he finished 11th.
Ouch.
Yeah, no.
I'm glad Colton won though because I'm glad he just got that win on oval.
Yeah, that's the thing is, so what happens is they come flying up on Stingray. Pato was not prepared for it. Like, he was watching his mirrors too much. So he gets surprised, has to brake, and only path he sees is to go out wide. Meanwhile, Colton just immediately reacts, lifts, ducks in tight on the inside, and holds the inside line throughout the corner, making an incredibly clean overtake in a situation that honestly I was pretty sure was going to end up being a 3 car accident. And then holds the lead for the next 2 laps for the win and his first oval win, which also put him on enough points to take second in the championship. I guess this is where it'd be appropriate to give a rundown of the championship standings, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but I mean I'm not gonna do it.
So, the end of the day, the final for the championship was Alex Pillow, obviously number one, followed by Herta, McLaughlin, Power, Award, Dixon, Kirkwood, Newgarden, Ferrucci, Rossi, Lundgaard, Rosenquist, VK, Armstrong, Ericsson, Lundquist, Grosjean, Rahal, Fittipaldi, and then rounding out the top 20, Stingray Rob. I am going to stop at the top 20 because after that is when we start getting into the part-time drivers, and we would be here all night if I went through all 43 of them.
Wait, there were 43 cars?
There were 43 drivers across the season.
Oh, seasons. Okay, I was gonna say, I'm like, holy crap! I didn't know there was that many even allowed. I thought it was 33 was the max to race.
No, no, I'm talking about season championship, season standings, not race standings.
And I got really excited because like maybe before the race, Alex was like, "All right, one winner, 42 losers."
No, there were only, I want to say, yeah, 27. I was going to say 28, but there were only 27 cars
I
in
eat
the race.
losers for breakfast. Hey, Lightning, you ready?
Yeah, so what we ended up with is a really impressive race from Herta. Finally getting a Opel win. And having his best finish in. Is that his best championship finish in his career?
Well, he's never in first, so second has to at least be
It's at least
tied for
tied, yeah.
best. Yeah. Um,
Entertain the people
so
while I
is
look
that
up the.
sixth career win?
I'm looking
Right.
up his stats, so talk. Just say words.
Oh, okay. Um, I tuned into this race like the last 50 laps. Actually, it was like the last 100 laps, but I went outside pretty soon after that to do something. I forgot. I think it was maybe like put my motorcycle away, and I came back with 30 laps to go. So I basically only was really invested in the last 30 laps of this race, almost because I had to, because I knew we'd podcast about it. And also I was like, I guess I want to see Indy cars at Nashville. So I honestly I like Nashville as a season finale, the Super Speedway. I really wish that much kind of like NASCAR, IndyCar would do maybe a better job at promoting the final race of the season. I know Eli talked about this the last episode, but I feel like IndyCar and NASCAR kind of have the same issue where it's man, I feel like almost every racing series doesn't do a good job of advertising the last race of the season, and you know, for NASCAR and IndyCar especially, this is usually always the biggest race of their season that's going to end it. And when you're going to a track like Nashville, which has nighttime capabilities with the lights, you could really hardcore advertise an awesome race. Um, and I'm not an expert. I've never done anything other than podcasts about racing. Maybe it's best for everybody if they do it during the daytime, and maybe if they don't advertise as much as the Indy 500. Okay, cool. I just wish I as a fan of Mercer was a little more hyped up. I just wish it was a little more kind of one of those what they call a crown jewel race. You know, NASCAR doesn't consider their championship race a crown jewel race, never has. I think that's a problem. Much for IndyCar, I wish that they kind of treated this year's Nashville, but really any year's season finale, almost in a similar manner as Indy. Not in terms of trying to clone Indy, but in terms of trying to advertise and trying to get the people excited. Because
Hmm.
even the reason I tuned in was for Nashville, the track itself. But if I hadn't known they were racing at Nashville, I probably wouldn't have cared that much because they didn't do a good job advertising.
Yep. Now I did check. It was his best season in IndyCar. Previously,
Okay,
it had been his best had been third.
was that 2019?
It was 21, I believe.
Oh, okay.
2019, I think he was fifth.
Oh, okay.
No, 2019 was seventh.
Oh man, not even close.
2019 was seventh. 2020, he was third. 2021, he was fifth. And then he had two
Hmm,
seasons where he finished 10th.
man, this was really good for him.
Yep. Still only
But
24 years old.
but my yeah, that's kind of my thing. I feel like for the sixth year of my life, 1 year less than NASCAR, I've been watching IndyCar,
He's
and
had 9 race wins in IndyCar, not 7.
okay,
He had 7 coming into
and
this year. He won twice.
oh, okay, I was haven't looked at IndyCar enough then, but I think that's the thing, though. I mean, I do really wish like there's nothing more intense than a nighttime season finale, and when you're going to Nashville,
Is
you
there a
know,
reason not to?
Nashville has only ever been night racing in NASCAR. Because NASCAR knows when people go to Nashville, they typically go there because they built the track with the lights. They kind of wanted to be Bristol like, and it's kind of like I feel like IndyCar doesn't have a lot of night races anymore besides Iowa. I'm right. Is
I think
that
it's the
really
only
it?
one.
Night racing is cool, guys. Like night racing is really cool, and I
Yeah.
feel like IndyCar is lacking. But I feel like man, this year would have been a perfect opportunity to not only hype up your season finale, but also like new racetrack at night. Like this is the season finale at 6:30 p.m. Or they could even do it at 7:30 since the race was only like 2 hours. Like let's say seven, like 7 o'clock nighttime Nashville season finale. Do something gimmicky to make people want to go. Boom, everyone's gonna watch it.
Yeah. It's also worth noting that this was Andretti's best finish since 2012.
Well, oh, who was driving for Indy then? I'm trying to think. Um, I want to say what's his name was already out by then. Dario Franchitti.
It wasn't him, no. It's
Okay.
Ryan Hunter-Reay.
Oh yeah, he was an Andretti guy in the yellow DHL. That's right.
Yep.
All
2012,
right,
he
man.
was the last time an Andretti driver was second or higher.
And he was champion in 2012, right?
I think so.
I know Ray got one.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. I'm so glad I got that piece of trivia. I've been sucking all night.
Yeah. So things are looking good for Andretti going into the next season.
Man, they should try
Makes me
again to
excited.
F1.
Oh, unfortunately, I don't have another hour.
Oh no. But yeah, I think that's my thing. I leave another IndyCar season mildly happy. I'm not thrilled. I'm just glad it existed, and of course I'm gonna watch next year, but I don't know.
They really need to
And
try something new.
yeah, I IndyCar as a sport, I think never tickled the Levi bone, maybe as of course as hard as NASCAR or maybe occasionally as hard as F1 has. Because I mean they're very into their own thing, respectively as sports. I mean, especially like I also love Superbike. It's very much its own thing. There's a lot of series that really just kind of they just kind of do it. Kind of like WEC and IMSA. A lot of them have their own thing, and with IndyCar, I think if I'm in an open wheel mood, I'm going to watch F1, and if I'm in American motorsport mood, I'm going to watch NASCAR. It's I feel like IndyCar could totally grow beyond the Indy 500, and honestly, if I would drive in one series, if I was a driver having to choose what series I target, I would go IndyCar because I love NASCAR, but honestly, it's a very crammed schedule. And I like F1, but it's you're I'm too it's too late. Like unless you have a rich family that started you young, you're probably not going to get into F1. But IndyCar you can still get into without having to basically devote just every minute of your life to it. But I love how it is kind of like a milder schedule. It's still like 17 races a year. I don't like how large the off season is, but at the same time, I think as a driver sport, IndyCar would be the most fun
Yeah.
to have. But that's the thing, you're 17 races a year. That's a lot more time to be able to cook up something for each and every race to really make it special. And I think every year, there's races in NASCAR and F1 and WEC I definitely don't want to miss. And with IndyCar, I can't think of a race that fits that bill other than Indy 500. There's not an IndyCar race every year that I'm like, oh man, I gotta watch that. I gotta get into that.
It doesn't help that they don't do a whole ton of road circuit races anymore. It's mostly street circuits.
Yeah,
And they aren't good.
I
IndyCar needs to go back to Coda and make that a marquee event.
yeah, for sure. And I I don't know how I feel about their point system.
I'm going to
I've
be
never
completely
really
honest, I don't understand it at all.
same.
I've not even bothered
I
to try.
if they if IndyCar made their app more teachable, because I think one thing F1 does really well is they have so many pages dedicated to teaching you about F1 101. And if you're getting into the sport, you can understand a lot of things really quickly.
Well, and
With
also, like,
IndyCar,
you open up the F1 app, you go to the race that just happened, you click on results. It tells you exactly how many points each person got, depending on their position, and why they got those points.
Yeah, yeah. And IndyCar definitely has been lacking that. Um, I don't think IndyCar has to do something super different like the NASCAR playoffs, but if IndyCar just makes things easier to follow, but does something very original, I mean they have the potential. I mean, spec racing can be difficult for people to get into, but IndyCar has one thing that NASCAR nor F1 have, and that's the ability to ride on ovals 240 miles an hour. I think people love it. People love the Indy 500 because you got these small cars buzzing around a track at insane speeds. But they could do a lot with the sport with the cars they have, and I think that's why I always kind of fail. Like once again, at the end of another season, I'm just mildly happy. I'm not as ecstatic like other sports. I'm just mildly okay. It happened, but like once again, um, no, I don't know what you do. Well, of course, I have ideas what I want to do, but as a sport, I think IndyCar's kind of just content keep doing what they do, and
What I say you do is first of all, you promote other races. Secondly, bring back Coda. Thirdly, Mexico City.
yeah, and also when their Grand Prix do something that F1 doesn't do, or really any series for that matter, like at this point, it's just basically Formula 2 when they road race.
I mean, the thing is, like, because another fundamental problem it has is not having an interest in. I'm gonna say the thing that gets controversial, but like, because a lot of like old school IndyCar fans hate this point, but it's also 100% accurate. You need the same teams with the same drivers showing up every week.
Yeah,
Because like if
you
when you have teams that only do ovals or only do like 3 races a year, nobody gives a crap about them. There's no reason for them to exist. They're doing nothing for the series.
mhm. Promote your heroes.
Yeah, don't do what they've been doing recently and actively undermine your most famous driver. Don't know if you heard about that.
No.
The president of IndyCar was trying to act like Pato O'Ward was not a big deal, even though he is literally the most popular IndyCar driver at the moment for a couple of decades and potentially of all time.
Man.
Yeah. All
Indy.
because Pato pointed out that NASCAR is doing a Mexico race before IndyCar, even though IndyCar has been claiming that they're trying to do that for like a decade now.
And once again, people can say what they want, but NASCAR, I think, actually tries.
Yeah.
Like, no matter how gimmicky they want to say, at least NASCAR is going to do stuff like that, where they're going to go to Mexico. And Eli, do you know what NASCAR did for how when they promoted Mexico?
What?
Who the driver was they promoted for Mexico?
Wasn't it Pato?
No, but it was their Mexican driver. They promoted Daniel Suarez because he's from Mexico. That's how you do it. That's how you get people want to go to the Mexico race.
I was gonna say I'm pretty sure I also remember that like there being talks that Pato might do one of the uh lower series races there.
It's NASCAR did a great job of promoting. NASCAR's always done a good job promoting the new races. To me personally, I mean, when it came to that, they promoted, Daniel Suarez, and in the back, you got your four most recent champions, Chase Elliott, also your most popular driver, Blaney, your second most popular driver. Then, you got Larson and Logano. I mean, those are the five guys you really want to promote for Mexico.
Yep. But IndyCar does not do things like that.
Yeah. And that's why IndyCar is always the little brother of American motorsport, unfortunately. It could do so much with, there's so much you could do with a spec car, and they're not doing it really.
Yeah.
I don't, yeah, so it's not bad. I think IndyCar is forever going to be that series where I guess if no other motorsports on, I'm going to watch it. But I'm
It just
also going to go out of my way for Indianapolis.
it's one of those things where it's like it could be great with just like just a couple of things.
Yeah, just a couple of secret sauces.
Oh well. Do we want to go into the news now?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So yesterday, me and you talked about this a little bit, but as far as news, we have some V8 supercar news. A new manufacturer with Toyota. I believe it's supposed to be 2026, entering the Toyota Supra into Australian V8 supercars. And not gonna lie, the reveal model looks pretty cool.
I didn't look it up yesterday, so I'm going to look it up.
I thought I sent you that, but I might have been mistaken.
Wow, that kind of just looks like a Supra.
Yep, just with
That
a
very
modified front
that's
end.
that's very faithful to like the actual car.
Yep, just a bit more aggressive looking.
Hmm.
In other new entry to motorsport category news, on September 12th, it was confirmed that Genesis, the luxury badge of Hyundai, has launched a bid to enter a hypercar in WEC.
I know.
Yep. There's no details as to when that would start, but it is also believed that it would be in 2026.
Man, a lot of motorsports gonna happen in 2026. I think our podcast is gonna light on fire.
Yeah, well, also that means that what next year we have Aston Martin joining WEC. 2026 we'd have Hyundai joining, both in hypercar. So that's what Ferrari, Lamborghini, BMW, Toyota, Cadillac. Uh, do 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 do. Um, wow, my brain is completely freezing up. Alpine, Peugeot.
I thought you said Persia for a second.
No, Peugeot. Uh, I know I'm forgetting some teams.
Um, did you? Is Floyd Vanwall out?
I think so.
There's a Soda Franchitti. R.I.P. Glickenhaus.
I'm talking about manufacturers.
Oh, not just hypercars.
The hypercar manufacturers in particular, but yeah.
Oh, okay. I um didn't remember all the ones you mentioned. I'm trying to just help. So you mentioned Lambo.
Yeah, that was one of the first ones.
Okay.
And the app is not wanting to play well right now.
There's Lambo, Ferrari, Toyota, Alpine,
Okay, I've got the app working,
Iso-
so I have just the list now.
Puigio,
So
Isota, Franchitti.
I'm just gonna start over.
Okay.
So we have Cadillac, Porsche, Toyota. It was Porsche that I was missing. Oresia. No, wait, that's an LMP car. Why is that listed with the hypercars? What are you doing? Oh, it's because this is listing them by car number, not by the actual. That's dumb. Anyway, Isoda Franchitti, BMW, Lambo. Peugeot. Yeah. Why the Ferrari's not listed here? Oh, there. I missed them. Ferrari. So I think we'll have, come 2026, 9 hypercar manufacturers, if I'm counting right.
That's a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's going to be a packed grid for 24 hours of Le Mans. That's for sure.
Maybe next year's 24-hour Le Mans, I won't get like seduced into buying a motorcycle.
I mean, there can't be as much rain.
Some of those fat, chunky tires.
Uh, and to
But
wrap. Oh, another piece of news is we
goodness,
have one of Prema's drivers in IndyCar confirmed. It is Callum Ilott. He gets to return to IndyCar with a full-time drive and not an Argentinian with a murderous fan base as his teammate.
yeah, an Argentinian with a murderous fan base. Interesting.
Do you remember who Ilott's previous teammate was when he was in IndyCar?
I don't.
He got canned partway through this year because his fan base was trying to kill Grosjean.
Ah, dang it. We talked about him, and I forget his name. But he was he was. Oh, okay, yeah, makes sense. Callum Ilott was driving the green car before him.
Yep.
Oh boy.
And I have proven in this episode that it's nothing against Argentinians. It was just against him and his fan base. Considering how
I
much
I
time I
very
spent fanboying over another Argentinian earlier.
I very much forget who it was. Like that was the only time he's ever been discussed because he never got close to winning.
Yeah. I want to say it was Agustin Calipino?
Augustine Cantapino, that's right.
The reason that I'm so sketchy about it is because I remember his last name is very similar to Colapinto.
Cantapino.
Let me see if I can't find him in the championship standings. Yep, Augustine Canapino. But yeah, so Callum Ilott is one of their 2 drivers next year. And then beyond that, we do have. There's one last bit of news relating to Formula One I didn't cover earlier, mostly because it's more of a rumor, which is supposedly, after Singapore, Lawson is going to be replacing Danny Rick at
I
VCARB.
I really hope this isn't true.
The only reason I would hope it's true is because Checo gets canned.
Are you saying they would put Ricardo in the seat next year?
I'm saying he's a better choice than Checo.
I was gonna say I didn't know if that was like when I read that news, I was wondering if they were just going to can Ricardo, like just period, like keep Checo and Max.
Supposedly, the reason for this, according to the sources of the rumors, is that basically they had expected to can Checo at some point in this season. And they expected Danny Rick to be doing substantially better than Yuki. So, according to the rumors, Lawson has a clause in his contract that he needs to race at least 5 races, otherwise he's a free agent. And if that's true, then what it sounds like is they were expecting Danny Rick to have gotten up to speed partway through the season, give Checo the boot, and bring Danny Rick in, and then have Danny Rick be replaced by Lawson for the back half of the season. Forgetting that VCarb has no clue what they're doing as a team operationally, and that Yuki is also actually a really good driver.
I have one request for Formula One. Can you at least be better than me? Because when I was a kid playing with my Hot Wheels, when I would like have like my seasons I would play with, like whenever I'd buy a new Hot Wheel, I'd just enter it midway through the season and can like my last one. That's real life Formula One right now. Like they are living like Levi's Hot Wheel acid dream of a season, just canning drivers midway, like getting new ones. If this happens, like, how do I take them seriously? Can we seriously not just keep guys for a full season? Is that so bad?
Remember when this season started out as being the first time in Formula One history that the entire grid was the same drivers as the end of the previous season?
Mhm.
There were more driver changes during the season this year than there were in the off season last year.
It's like they really are. They're kind of just playing with their drivers like they're Hot Wheels. Like,
I'll be honest, it's more interesting to have all the drivers moves happen mid-season than it is when nothing's happening. But I don't like it.
oh no, you know what? I'll agree with you there. Like, it's definitely good for like media and press and attention, but like coming from a workplace standpoint and a driver standpoint, can you really just let people work and get into a rhythm rather than just like being very ADHD about that?
Well, I mean, the thing that drives me so crazy about this is, again, Yuki is a really good driver. B-Carb has no idea what they're doing as a team. How in the world can you judge Danny Rick based on this? Especially considering he's actually been doing pretty good.
Yeah, I I think just Red Bull really underestimates Yuki.
I mean, we know that Marco does.
This is racist.
Yeah.
If Yuki was American, he'd like him much. Actually, no. If Yuki was UK, he'd love him.
Yeah. I really hope that this rumor is just nothing, or that it's that, like, if there is a driver in the Red Bull family that deserves to be kicked out partway through this season, it's Checo.
Yes.
Checo is the reason that Red Bull is losing the Constructors' Championship right now.
You know what's kind of funny is I feel like when we started this podcast, you were like, I somewhat understand why they're keeping Checo, but not really. He's like, you're like, it's going to matter pretty soon, like whether he starts being good or not. And here we are,
I
4 months
expected
later.
it to matter next year.
Here we are, 4 months later, and it's mattering now whether he's good or not, and he's not being good.
Yeah, that's the thing. When we started, I expected, because when we started, Red Bull was still, the top. So I expected it to matter next year. What I expected to happen was Red Bull was going to be real dominant for the first half of the season, and then everyone was going to slowly start to catch up with them and like start closing towards the end of the season, and like that's when it would first like start to look like someone could. And then next year, if they kept Checo, it would cost them it. I didn't expect McLaren to suddenly become the fastest car after 5 rounds, and then it to immediately matter.
Here we are. Crazy world. We live in a sport where you can drivers midway through the season, and midway through the season, the best car changes.
Yep.
It really is Levi's Hot Wheel acid dream, the sport.
This has been one of the most ridiculous seasons of F1.
Yeah. Um, at least it's not like crazy dominance. I like it.
Yeah.
I
Anyway,
like
that's
you
all
live
the news
you
I
live
have.
for seasons like this.
The unfortunate thing, the thing is, I am getting kind of sick of people trying to act like there's an actual championship fight. Because
Yeah,
Lando would have
it's
to outscore Max by, I think, 8 points a race.
it's low key kind of gone at this point. I love believing in miracles, and I'm going to keep rooting for Lando to do it. But at the same time, the realistic, logical guy inside me kind of knows it's a stretch.
The points gap has been almost identical for the last 5 races.
Yeah, it just for every time Lando wins or gets those 8 points to get on Max, something happens to where that gets nullified really quick.
Yeah. That's what's that is the thing that is starting to annoy me. People can't let like the good racing speak for itself. They're just like, "Oh, and we have a championship fight." No, we don't. Like for Lando to have a realistic chance at the championship, he needs to be in first or second for every single race for the rest of the season.
We'll have to see how those first laps do.
Yeah, and there's your problem. We're at the point where Piastri is the calmer, more consistent one, where, like, generally speaking, where Piastri qualifies is around where he's going to end. Lando, not so much.
Oh well. We'll let this play out. If you live in wait, let me think. If you live in Singapore, I guess the race starts in actually never mind. I guess it starts the same time we do. It's just
Yes,
going to
then
be
it's the middle of the night. For
nighttime.
us, it's 6 in the morning.
Well, you Singaporeans have fun in the middle of the night. And to you who went to Bristol, I feel your pain because when I went to Indy, Kyle Larson won that too. Seems like the guy just can't leave me. Just trying to have fun.
Hey, he's not won the championship yet.
Oh, he hasn't won since 2021. I think we're okay. He just thinks he's won more because he races a lot of dirt. He's not going to win this year. I'm very confident he's not going to win this year. Because I said that he'll probably win this year. Wait, that's all I got to say.
Oh, you're the host.
Or just making sure you're done. Do you have any last respects to pay?
Nope, just next week I'm going to be talking about Singapore.
I'll be more in depthy about Bristol. And for another week, I think we have been irreverent.
I don't know. I feel like I paid a bit too much respect to Colapinto and Behrman for us to be considered truly irreverent.
Well, because Kyle Larson won, we're going to be irreverent next week, so good enough.
All right. Well, I guess bye.
Yep, get out. Bye.